I'm Dr. Brian Nickel, your cannabis expert for CannabisExpertMD.com. Lovely morning in Arkansas today. Sam and I are having a little bit of coffee out in the garden, and Sam had a question for a patient today he wanted to discuss. What you got for us, Sam?
Well, this question actually came from a few patients, but the one we're going to answer is from lots of people from many places.
Lots of people, many places. Okay, so a frequently asked question, it sounds like.
And this is, why does smoking cannabis sometimes trigger, now tell me if I'm pronouncing this wrong, supraventricular tachycardia?
Well, you're close. It's supraventricular tachycardia. We'll just call it SVT. How about that, Sam?
Okay, we'll call it SVT.
So, cannabis can trigger supraventricular tachycardia. At least I've seen it in my practice. A very common side effect from cannabis is increasing the heart rate. Now, this is usually transient, lasts several minutes in most patients, out to several hours in some. This usually is something that is rapidly, you develop rapid tolerance to this. After several days, typically, of cannabis exposure, the body compensates for it, and we really don't see that tachycardia normally in most patients. Supraventricular tachycardia, though, it's a different cause altogether.
Okay, so what exactly is SVT?
Well, supraventricular tachycardia, it's a conduction abnormality in the heart. There are pathways in the heart where the electrical signals cause different parts of the heart to contract. It starts up in the atrium, causes the top part of the heart to contract that pushes blood to the bottom part of the heart, the ventricles. That's the part that pumps to the body or to the lungs. The electrical pulse normally starts in the atrium, goes down to the ventricles, top part contracts, bottom part contracts, then it starts over again. In supraventricular tachycardia, there are these accessory pathways, different cells that actually do carry electrical signals back to the atrium before they should really get there. As a result, the atrium contracts. Instead of the time delay to the ventricles getting ventricles do contract, but the atrium is immediately re-stimulated to fire again, and patients will develop very, very fast heart rates, sometimes in the 140 to 180 range.
So like, what in cannabis could be causing it, or what chemical or whatever?
Well, certainly the THC, as we were talking about, does have a tendency to increase heart rate transiently like that. And although it's not necessarily reported extensively in the literature, something I've seen in patients in my practice are strains that are high in the terpene linalool. Typically will precipitate SVT in patients that do have that as a pre-existing diagnosis. I did find a case report of a patient in Turkey who is using a lot of Earl Grey tea that has a lot of linalool in it as a result of the lavender flavoring that's used. This patient went into a very high SVT that resolved after discontinuation of the lavender tea. On my patients that have had this issue with cannabis, when I've directed them to avoid strains that are high in the linalool terpene in particular, Sam, it does seem to resolve. So my recommendation to patients with SVT is to avoid strains that are high in the terpene linalool. Locally, that would be strains like GG4 or Glue Ball, for instance.
So I guess linalool is a good terpene to stay away from. How do you avoid other causes of SVT in cannabis?
Well, on patients that do have this diagnosis, again, the THC can cause some of this. I usually will advise patients with SVT not to just use a THC strain of cannabis, but to use additional CBD with that. The CBD can be incorporated either in a tincture form, as I'm often recommend to patients, or you can actually do flower mixing with some CBD flower. Do 50% mix of CBD and THC flower, and you will moderate that effect a little bit.
So, how would someone treat SVT if it was caused by their use of cannabis?
Well, the first thing, of course, is you want to avoid the insulting components of that. That would mostly be the linalool, in my opinion. You want to moderate some of the effects of THC, and again, by using CBD with it, you can moderate those effects. If you do go into a stretch of supraventricular tachycardia from smoking a strain that doesn't agree with you, Administration of additional CBD, either in tincture form or flower, will moderate those effects.
All right. Well, I hope that explained it to you. I know a lot of you had that question. Thanks for sending it to us. I actually had no idea what it is, and I haven't seen that much cannabis information about it either on YouTube or any of the video websites. So thanks for letting us know.
Sure. Well, again, that is my clinical experience and my best advice to patients at this point in time. For more information on all things medical cannabis, be sure to check us out at CannabisExpertMD.com. Where else are we, Sam?
YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Gab, and Relevant.
Gab and the relevant platforms under Cannabis Expert MD.